Welcome to MMT Chats, sponsored by ISCAR USA. Hey MMT followers, Christina Fuges with MoldMaking Technology for another quick MMT chat. I have 3 guests today, all from Metro Mold and Design in Rogers, Minnesota. They are Ben Lampron, Vice President, Rob Hendel, Director of Operations, and Paula Rush, Quality Leader. Hello, all. All right, so to get started, Ben, why don't you give us a snapshot of exactly who Metro Mold and Design is? You know, its size, its specialty, what makes it different from the competition?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Christina, for having us. Metro Mold and Design has been around since about 1973. We're located here in the metro area of Minneapolis, and we actually have 2 facilities. The folks you're talking to here today are all from the Rogers, Minnesota facility, and we do commercial and industrial plastics. We also have a sister division down the road in Brooklyn Park who focuses on the medical industry. So that's kind of how we divide our business. Interestingly enough, both are about the same size, roughly $40 million in revenue in each building, about 100 employees in each building. So they're really truly sister businesses, and we run mostly independent, although we do some best practice sharing here and there. We focus on kind of 3 different types of molding. We do blow molding, thermoset molding, and thermoplastic injection molding. And down at Medical, they do quite a bit of few things. They do precision machining, dry machining, a whole series of clean room and white room molding, as well as tool build. So we kind of are, between the 2 sister businesses, are able to attack a bunch of different markets strategically, as well as help each other out. So it's works well for us, and we're in quite a bit of growth here at Metro Mold.
Yeah, that's a lot. You guys do it all, it almost sounds like. So with that being said, what do you say is your chief competitive advantage?
So what we do really well, Christina, this has been a focus for our company probably for the last 5 years. We really focus on what we do well and don't do what we don't. We take the 80-20 process to heart, and we'll talk about that later, really to the core of everything that we do. And we're not afraid to say no. We really focus on our top customers, understand their needs, and everybody from the operator on the floor all the way up to my office are fully focused on those top customers and their day-to-day operations and their needs. By doing that, we eliminate the noise, and I think we're able to deliver it to a level they're not used to getting, frankly. And I think that's our biggest advantage.
All right. So I know to you guys that Metro Mold has a very talented cross-functional team. So Paula, do you want to explain exactly what that means?
So basically, it means that we have a great team of people here that are highly capable experts in various parts of the process. Now, creating and maintaining that team is really the key. So there's a couple things that we use to do that. The first is our quality system, including procedures and work instructions that take that knowledge and expertise that we have and standardize it into those documents. In addition with that, we do cross-training. So we encourage a lot of our employees to do training in areas that aren't their main area of work. And this allows us a few things. It gives people a way to advance if that's what they desire. It gives us flexibility as a company. So cross-training in conjunction with kind of making sure that our expertise is incorporated into those systems really allows us to have that great team that works together here.
Cross-training, it's funny you bring that up because as a result of COVID, that was instrumental in a lot of the success of shops. Like you had to be flexible and be adaptive. Plus, I like the whole perspective of that's a great way of getting employees to see maybe there's another area in the company that they would be good at that you wouldn't even know unless they gave it a go. So I like that. And that fits right in with the trend that's happening today. All right, so I would imagine Metro Mold's experience with both the mold making side of things and the molding side of things has been an advantage over the competition, even though I do realize probably the past 10, 12 years, there's been a pretty notable trend of mold builders getting into production molding, going beyond sampling and tryout. So Rob, can you talk a little bit about when you added molding capabilities and why, and how your blend of that experience has benefited Metro Mold?
Well, it kind of started at the base of being recognized as a world-class mold builder. When the company was developed by the founder, they were really good at building precision tools that hit the ground running right away once it left their facility, and they were predominantly focused on just building tools and getting them out and then getting them back in and doing repairs and regular PM. And they started being recognized by some industrial customers and some medical customers that, hey, if you're really good at making a tool, what would it take for you to at least shoot it and do an IQ on it? And then you kind of own the tool and the press, and you get feedback right away. And so they bought a couple of presses, and long story short, developed a really robust process about iterating and understanding on the quality side how the tool is yielding and what it's yielding, what to do to the tool before it even went to the customer. So they developed almost a turnkey process on I would say an equal platform. So they developed a tool for a 110-ton machine, and then the deal is they turned over a tool, a cycle sheet process, and some kind of quality details associated with how the tool behaved, and some capability as well. And then it just grew and grew and grew.
Do most customers, do you have both the tooling and the molding? How's that break down?
So the breakdown is most of the customers own their own tools, and we take care of them for the duration of production, whether we keep production or not. That was another thing that kind of changed is it's much more difficult to run a business where you're only building tools. There's annuity revenue associated with building tools and turning them into production. And once we develop a tool for the customer, we know it better than anybody else. It's much better than getting a transfer tool or something like that. Yeah. So getting that recognition has helped grow the business quite a bit too, and changing our perspective regarding building a tool and turning it over to a moderate to really superior tool, to knowing that you have to keep it yourself and make it successful is a different approach on how far you bring that tool through development as well.
Yeah, I agree. So I know Metro Mold has also made significant investments in automation. So Rob, can you talk a little bit about, describe its application within the mold building side and the molding side of the business?
On the mold building side, it's really been our advantage to go kind of counterintuitive to lean and do more batch and queue when you only have so many platforms to migrate all those processes across. We invest in the top of the line technology, but really it's the personnel that leverage that technology to say, look, if I got to build this electrode and I know I'm going to have to do some kind of tool iteration because it was built steel safe, let's build an extra one right now. So not so much automation at when people think about robots moving around, but automation for being planned or having a contingency, knowing full well that you're going to have an automatic iteration process. On the molding side and the production side, recently we've invested into high-speed autonomous robots that rove throughout our floor, and they have sonic radars and cognitive cameras on them, so they can be cobots. They can go around people if you're standing there having a conversation.
Oh, wow.
We use those for moving materials through our shop. The gain has been great. Obviously, there's a labor savings, or taking what labor everybody's starved for and putting it more useful on a technical side rather than paying somebody or having somebody just move stuff around for you. The other thing is it's done right the first time. So that whatever you're moving through the site, it's going to go where it's supposed to. It's going to be precisely transactioned, and it's done right the first time. It's great.
Yeah, perfect. So outside of automation, although maybe that would be your answer, what would you say, Rob, is the most valuable piece of technology? All right, let's stick with the mold building side. When it comes to the mold building side of Metro Mold, what's the most valuable piece of technology you guys have?
It would be a combination of multiple technologies. So couple the latest and greatest mill or whatever you can get to be as precise and do it made right the first time. But the real secret, or the technology, the way we leverage it, is our vertical integration. We can develop a tool, do full DFM, we can build that tool, we could shoot the tool, and we get feedback to ourselves between the two buildings that are 12.7 miles apart inside of days, not weeks. In addition to that, many times when you're developing a process on a freshly built tool, you get a game of telephone where the process engineer is trying to compile the data that he wants to bring to the mold builder, and most of the time that translates to parts submitted and lots of pictures. But because we built the tool, we just call up the guy who built it, come up here, he puts his head inside of the tool along with the process engineer, and they leverage the technology that way and get immediate feedback. That translates up to 50% of a reduced lead time for our customers and ourselves when it comes to tool build. It's a tremendous advantage.
Oh, it has to, I believe it. And I hear that over and over again. All right, so let's talk about this 80-20 rule. So Ben, why don't you give us the rundown or break down how that actually works and how does it impact Metro Mold's business?
Well, Christina, 80-20, you walk around the shop floor, you'll certainly hear that phrase in almost everything we do. Whether it's a daily meeting, whether it's hiring, whether it's when we do our raises every year, you're going to get 80% of your results from 20% of the inputs. It's kind of the natural order of things all the way back from Pareto's principle. But really harnessing that and leveraging it in your daily decision making is hard to do because what it forces us to do is say, if we're going to focus on the 80s and give less attention to the 20s, that's a conscious choice. Yep. And what we do is we figure out what can we put our brain power, our money, our resources in to have the greatest impact for our customers. And we're frankly open with them. If a customer is a quote unquote 80, they know it, they know they're treated like that, and they know they get our full respect and attention. If a customer is a 20, it doesn't mean that we treat them poorly. We treat them well, but they are treated differently. And by splitting up our resources and really focusing on the ones that we have a greater impact on the customer's business, it allows us to really allocate our resources properly. Wow. It's a focus every day in everything we do.
Yep, you live by it. All right, so when it comes down to, I know you've talked about improving the organizational structure, right? And the approach to how you, I think the website says, or you have said, overserve your top customers. And I'm sure that goes beyond the 80-20 rule. So can you elaborate on that a little bit? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, so it's really interesting, Christina. If you go back 4 or 5 years ago, I'm summarizing here, but we probably have 25% of the number of customers we used to have. So we chose to reduce our portfolio of customers, in a respectful way and a mutual way. But by doing that, we can say to our customers we have now, you have the full breadth, depth of everyone in my building, whether it's an operator, it's me, it's Rob, it's Paula. There's key customers where every meeting we have, weekly, quarterly, I'm on those calls because it's important for those customers to know that there is no layers, there is no hard to get hold of your vendor. We're all there to serve them directly. And I think getting rid of those layers and being more transparent to our customer just makes us give them service they're not used to. If there's something going wrong on our shop floor that's hurting their supply chain, everybody in this building knows it. Everybody on this building is focused on it the next morning, and we're on it. So I think that sets us apart from a lot of our competitors, and our customers really enjoy that.
That's awesome. All right, so we can't not talk about COVID and its impact. So I know Metro Mold has experienced some reshoring involving tool transfer, and that's a big deal with you. Actually, I have an article coming up from you guys on that. But why don't we talk a little bit, I guess Paula first and then Ben, and share COVID's impact on the company and any lessons that you've learned during these times. And story after story, mostly positive, is what I think shops, builders and molders have learned what they can do with what they have the past year. So talk about that a little. How about you, Paula, first?
COVID definitely has presented us with some challenges and continually presents us with more challenges all the time. But we've taken some steps to do what we can remotely, and we have as many meetings as possible remotely, and that helps with just not having a big group of people together. But in manufacturing, there's a lot of things that have to be done hands-on. So we have protocols for masking, social distancing, and we follow those internally. And I think we've had pretty good success with those in minimizing any COVID issues that we have internally. But one thing that it has pointed out that's really a strength is, and I think you mentioned it before, is the cross-training. So when you do have people out for COVID reasons or other reasons, sometimes many people in one area or someone out for a longer period of time, you have other people that are trained in that area that can take over and flex to the areas that are needed so that we can continue to provide those parts that our customers need consistently.
So Ben, how about on the sales and marketing side? Because mostly you had to learn virtually, right? How to sell and how to keep those relationships going. At least I think I'm hearing a lot more lately that people are getting out there and welcoming people into their facilities. But talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, a couple of things. First, to add on to what Paula was saying, we really are blessed here at Metro Mold about the folks' not only knowledge but willingness to do different jobs. Rob's run presses, I've run presses. People have done quality checks when Paula's folks are out, so we really have a really wonderful team. But from the sales side, we've learned quite a bit of things. For that first 6 months or so, even getting a customer call was very, very difficult for obvious reasons. Everyone was kind of locked down. We've done quite a few investments, Christina. We've had a virtual tour built for our facility. We have invested in quite a bit of new marketing materials so that when we do have Zoom meetings, customer calls with potential customers, they can get a real feel for who we are from afar. It wasn't cheap and it wasn't easy, but we did spend that time fairly early on in the pandemic. And because of it, we've been able to continue to grow top line revenues throughout this pandemic, which I think is, again, a blessing and not everywhere. I'm thankful that we have, kind of the wherewithal to have that sort of creativity and that budget to afford those things. But when you get on a phone call with a customer, show them a virtual tour of your facility, stop, move around, and then, of course, go to any of the presentations we've built and share with them the value, I think that really does hit home, and customers have been thankful for it. Now, you're right. People are now starting to answer the phone and starting to do some visits. We're trying to figure out how we're going to navigate that. But I think we've done as good of a job as we could, and our customers have done well too.
And at least we know how to do it now without being out there. Even though I think most of us miss that. And know
what's going to be interesting for those in the industry is how does this change things long term?
Yeah,
right?
Seriously.
Do we actually go back to the way we were doing business before? I'm not sure. But,
I don't know either.
It'll be a hybrid of some sort.
That's what I think, which is that's the future. All right, so how about reshoring? Reshoring is another, I would say, positive impact, right? A lot of companies, manufacturers are onshoring or reshoring work. So Paula, can you share any details about, I know Metro Mold has won some projects, so you want to share any particular cases of stuff that would have otherwise gone overseas?
Yeah, I think we have some great examples of reshoring at MMD. I think a high percentage of the parts that we make every day very well could have been made overseas. But I think because of the way that we design our processes to be very efficient, our customers can get what they expect from a domestic manufacturer, which is great service and quality and delivery. But we can also offer a better price because of the way that we design our processes. So it kind of eliminates that benefit for customers to have parts made overseas.
Is that a conscious effort by you guys to help people reshore and bring work back, or is it you're waiting for it to happen?
Yeah, it's maybe Ben can answer that a little bit clearly.
Yeah, sure. I can take that one, Paula. Christine, when you think about when we're making our sales, pitches to our customers, obviously shipping cost and time to delivery is a huge thing. So whatever benefit they're getting by taking parts from Asia or other places, we just have to kind of cross that bridge of cost. And through some of the automation Rob was talking about, we really have been able to shrink our total overall cost profile. And when you don't have to be exactly where the overseas folks are, but you get close enough. And boy, that same time zone, same quick response that they expect that you can deliver, that definitely crosses that bridge. And we've been very successful doing it.
That's great. So Paula, we talked about tool transfer a little bit earlier. So I mentioned there's an article coming out, but would you mind sharing? I know this is something that you guys have pretty much perfected because you do this. So can you share some keys to managing a successful tool transfer?
Definitely. Tool transfers can be one of the most challenging things to do. And there's a few ways that I think we are successful. First is making sure that we thoroughly understand what our customers' expectations are. Secondly, we have advanced inspection capabilities in-house that allow us to analyze, what comes out of the mold, make sure that the parts are what the customer is expecting. And then third, we communicate that, regularly and openly with the customer so that we can come to really a mutually beneficial agreement about, what is the capability of this tool, and so that we can have a robust production process long term.
That's awesome. All right, so almost done. So Rob, what would you consider Metro Mold's #1 challenge right now, and how are you facing that challenge?
Well, it's an interesting challenge because it existed pre-pandemic, believe it or not. Everything right now has been a problem for a year. Everybody looks back over the year and says, oh, this pandemic challenge.
Right.
Our number one challenge has existed before pandemic, and that is mold builders are not unicorns, but close. They have such a deep wealth of knowledge with, you know, four different segments: precision machining, fitment, polishing, thermoplastics knowledge on how the plastic is going to behave, how it interfaces with the machine. So our number one challenge right now is sourcing that full core skill in a candidate we can go hire today.
Wow.
And any mold builder will say you can't open, you know, the newspaper and go, you know, people looking for a job and select from a pool of 30 to 50. You can find one or two, and that has led us to do some other stuff. And that is, one, identifying internal candidates that have some of those core skills already with some of our other departments in vertical integration, like precision machine, or a thermoplastic setup technician, or we were lucky to have a couple of people that had both. They work in precision machines, so they were basically machinists, and then they wanted a career path in setup technician, and so we have those different departments available, and so we train and grow those individuals there. And then what we're doing about it is we're identifying those candidates internally, developing a curriculum and putting them on a career path with the knowledge that they have, and then leveraging it into our mold build area. So it's not often we will have a couple of candidates or a couple of folks in the building that we'll have them do a couple of setups and startups, and as soon as those are done, they walk down to our tool room and they chip in down there, either learning tool disassembly, modifications, making new pins, you name it, and that's how we're growing that core skill across multiple levels of the organization.
Growing your own. I like that. And that seems to be I guess the most effective way. In addition to that, do you have relationships with area trade schools or universities or any kind of programs?
Yeah, we leverage, so we have our own recruiter, and then I make visits, and a lot of other leaders make visits to the tech schools. I'm actually involved into a local technical college where we're developing precision machine curriculum and what the latest platforms are, and we donate to those schools as well when we have machinery that they could benefit from. And our recruiters constantly reaching out to say, okay, who are your rock stars, and do they want to start now? And we can do a startup curriculum for them and have them even work and go to school and make accommodating schedules for them that way.
That's great. All right, lastly, Ben, how do you expect business for Metro Mold to evolve in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think we've really learned a lot over the last couple of years, and we're certainly going to leverage those learnings. You know, what we do well, you know, low complexity, high volume manufacturing, right? And the way we leverage that is through automation, robotics, you know, kind of just being 24/7 operation with as few people as possible. I see that being more and more where we go because it's just giving us such a competitive edge. But beyond that, and that's kind of like table stakes in the plastics industry, I think we really are going to become more of an extended arm of our customers' businesses. And as we grow with some of our A customers, they're leveraging our knowledge and expertise in terms of supply chain management. How do we have them look at their portfolio of plastic vendors, whether MMD gets the business or not? We can help them understand how to set up their tools, how to set up their distribution channels. And I think that's become more and more of a need because as we go on to the next 5 to 10 years, manufacturing expertise, I think, may not get stronger, it might even get weaker. And the way we see it, the vendors who provide that extra value to customers are going to be the ones that set themselves apart. So I think we're going to make great plastic for great value for our customers, but we're going to add that extra stuff that really separates us from our competition. And I think that's going to keep us growing.
That's great. All right, that is it. I want to thank each one of you for your time today, and to everybody watching out there. Remember, for everything mold making, visit MoldMakingTechnology.com. Stay safe and healthy, and most importantly, stay informed and stay inspired.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.